Pope Francis does not read the homily at the Palm Sunday celebration after the proclamation of the Lord's Passion. This is the first time such a thing has ever happened. Even the agencies most addicted to mainstream globalist catatonia raised eyebrows, but that's the least of it. Perhaps not everybody knows that Bergoglio has not celebrated Mass in public for a very long time. It did not even celebrate on March the 28th. As the Catholic blog named Celere Non Possum reports, this scandalizes many of the people, but also priests, especially those who saw St. John Paul II celebrate in far worse conditions than Francis is in. They would not be scandalized if they finally understood that Bergoglio is not the legitimate pope, given Benedict XVI impeded see, but evidently that's too difficult to them. No matter, we move forward by producing facts and documents. It took a lot of work to research all of Bergoglio's public masses and to find that he has not celebrated a mass since April the 10th, 2022, another Palm Sunday. Just a glance is enough. When the anti-pope does not celebrate, but presides or at most concelebrates, he does not wear the chasuble, a one-piece liturgical vestment, but a white cloak, called a cope, open at the front. In this video, you can see for yourself, although Bergoglio has not been celebrating Mass and how many rich copes he has. While Benedict XVI was referred to as the vintage pope because he reused the vestments of previous popes, such as Pius IX, Benedict XV, John XXIII, the Paparis Bergoglio has had dozens. We counted about 30 different ones of copes made, the cost of which could range, according to a well-known ecclesiastical tailor, from 2,000 to 5,000 euros each. Among them, here are some hallucinating ones, such as the one used for the supposedly apostolic trip to Budapest. The logo for the trip was a cross from which a river flows. Oddly enough, the trimmings on the water in Francis' cup take on strange orientations that inevitably make one think of a goat. For that matter, it is not surprising considering that he himself, as a good Gnostic, often repeats that Jesus became a serpent, became the devil. Now, let us think about it. Why has Bergoglio since April the 10th, 2022, all of a sudden stopped celebrating Mass? Usually he does things gradually, in an overtone way. Why this abrupt interruption? The official excuse is that he suffers from pain in his knee, and so it hurts him to stand. However, we know that these health-related stories are completely unreliable. We remember when we were given about 4 to 5 different versions on his staying in hospital, something noted even by the legitimist una cum people. Moreover, as Celere Non Possum noted, at the November the 2nd, 2023 Mass, Bergoglio suddenly decided to concelebrate. The Pope began to Mass as president. He gave the homily, the Eucharistic liturgy, however, saw a change of guard. Archbishop Diego Ravelli became the celebrant, and the Pope did not do as usual, but got up and went to the side of the altar to concelebrate. Now, it is clear that there are no norms that prohibit this. Both are bishops. Both enjoy the fullness of the priesthood. But the question is it appropriate? If the Pope has the strength to stand at the altar, why can't he celebrate and if others can celebrate? If your knee is hurting you, you cannot stand even to concelebrate at the side of the altar, right? Well, this is exactly right. As we can see, when he wants to, Bergoglio can stand. Not to mention all the stories as he has given us, from the Paparis walk down Via del Babuino to change the frames of his glasses. We remember that he spent 15,000 euros in security, to the laughable story of his personal photographer who randomly happened to be outside the record store to take a picture of him. Let's not forget the fake live broadcast from Fabio Fazio unveiled by Bergoglio's own wristwatch that said 5:30 p.m. instead of 8:30. Besides, as we have shown, the anti-Pope from Argentina has known since his election that he is not the legitimate Pope. So one thing is for certain, the official version is certainly not to be taken into consideration. At this point, there are two different explanations. One, Gnostics have a so-called truth obligation, that is, they must be as truthful as possible through gestures, symbols, and statements. The massive use of symbols plays a key role both in acquiring preternatural forms of power and in subliminally conditioning the masses with the more or less secret messages conveyed by images and drawings. How can Bergoglio be a Catholic, given that he does not care in the slightest, that he does not have the Petrine munus, and has occupied the throne of the real impudent Pope? If he were a true Catholic Pope, he would be devoured by his love for the Eucharist, and like John Paul II, he would celebrate it at all costs, to last perhaps aided, supported by clerics, according to his own possibilities. It is legitimate, therefore, to assume that he avoids as much as possible those sacraments he supposedly does not believe in, which he opposes and has been trying to diffuse for some time with the tampering already done in the Missal, such as the insertion of the dew nectar of the Roses Cross in the second Eucharistic prayer. However, it is striking how suddenly this decision to stop celebrating Mass has come, forcing as of April 10, 2022, Vatican cameras and editors to jump through hoops not to frame it during the consecration or other key moments of Mass. So another possibility looms that, however remote, is plausible and could save the image of the Church, which is currently very seriously compromised. First of all, it must be said that the Vatican has very stringent rules to which even the Pope is subject. He cannot do whatever he wants at all, as from outsiders one would superficially be led to think. Suffice it to recall, as an extreme example, how Pope Benedict was forbidden to bring his beloved cats into the apostolic apartment. Recall also Article 3 of Universi Dominici Gregis, which imposes a duty on cardinals to enforce the rights of the apostolic see. Clergymen are also liable to a whole series of sanctions, incapacitations, and censures, among them some that may prohibit them from celebrating the sacraments, all or some of them. Now, we know from insiders that in the Vatican, the issue of Pope Benedict's impedity is an open secret. Everybody knows about it, and is talked about everywhere in a furtive way. Even the custodians of Castel Gandolfo have confirmed it to us. Monsignor Vigano argued on April 5, 2022, on Aldo Maria Valli's blog, what follows. Before discussing the next conclave, it is necessary to shed light on the abdication of Benedict XVI and on the issue of fraud in the 2013 conclave, which soon or later must give place an official investigation. Should there be evidence of irregularities, the conclave will be null and void. Bergoglio's election will be null and void, just as all his appointments, ex-government and magisterium. A reset that will providentially return us to the status quo ante, with a college of cardinals composed only of cardinals appointed to up to Benedict XVI, ousting all of those created since 2013, one notoriously ultra-progressive. As you can read, it is technically possible to open up an investigation into Bergoglio's legitimacy, because he is not exempt from the action of the law. What if the investigation had already been opened a long time ago, let's say in 2022? Certainly, we would not hear about it. Thus, the other possibility could be that Bergoglio is in fact obligated not to celebrate Mass publicly, or has been strongly advised against doing so by cardinals or by Vatican legal bodies, perhaps because he is involved in internal audits of his legitimacy that we know nothing about. Entirely plausible that, as a precautionary measure, the Vatican State has forbidden him to perform acts that might constitute very serious scandal and a profanation with the body of Christ. And so, for Bergoglio, the only possible justification to be served to people and the media remains that of a sore knee or some other ailment to ditch the celebration altogether. But guess what? No one falls for that anymore.